Today, I'm diving into one of the most pivotal moments in early Nazi history, the Beer Hall Putsch. Let's roll back to November 8th, 1923. The Beer Hall Putsch was an attempted coup by the small and insignificant Nazi party led by none other than Adolf Hitler. The aim? To overthrow the Weimar Republic and seize power in Munich and then to march on Berlin. Bold, right? But before we talk about that, we need to go back a while to understand the political landscape in Germany and Bavaria at the time. During 1923, the German government was behind in its payments of the war reparations to the Entente powers, and the government simply started printing money, lots of money. That led to an unprecedented hyperinflation. In January 1923, a loaf of bread was skyrocketing to 250 marks and had risen to 200,000 marks by November 1923. You needed a wheelbarrow filled with money to buy an egg. People's life savings simply evaporated, and in desperation, many flocked to the communists and the Nazis, the only parties at the time that offered any form of solution. In early September, the Nazi Party, alongside a few other paramilitary groups, attended the big rally called Deutscher Tag, or the German Day, in Nuremberg. It was during this event that the Nazi Party militia, the SA, alongside the Bavarian right-wing paramilitary Bund Oberland, and the monarchist Bund Reichsflagge organized themselves under the umbrella called Deutscher Kampfbund, or German Struggle Organization. The Deutscher Kampfbund aimed to overthrow the Weimar government in one swift stroke. In all this turbulence, Adolf Hitler emerged as the political leader of the Kampfbund. However, Hitler was invited to secret talks with the dictatorial leader in Bavaria, Commissar Gustav Ritter von Kahr. The latter wanted to throw out the Weimar government as well and solidify his own power in Bavaria. And he asked if Hitler wanted to be part of his plans. However, Hitler was not really to be part of anything. Von Kahr had played Hitler just to keep him quiet. Weeks progressed without anything happened. When Hitler learned of the betrayal, he was furious, and the Nazi Party leadership decided it was time for action. Alongside Hitler and the Nazi Party was the SA, the armed Nazi militia, as well as the parts of the Deutscher Kampfbund. By this time, the Kampfbund also had its own internal problems with the Bund Reichsflagge, which suddenly left the umbrella. It was much due to the organization's strong connections to the elite industrialist and Junker classes, as well as the fact that most of the members were staunch monarchists. When they understood that Hitler had no interest at all in reinstating the Kaiser, they simply left. That was a big blow for the joint Kampfbund, since the Reichsflagge was the by far biggest organization in the umbrella, with about 20,000 armed men throughout Bavaria. But not all of the members of the Reichsflagge was happy with the decision to leave the Kampfbund, and 4 local districts promptly left the organization and flocked around Captain Ernst Röhm. Röhm quickly organized the 4 defiant districts in a new organization called Bund Reichskriegsflagge, which was fiercely loyal to the aims of the Deutscher Kampfbund. All was now set, and the joint forces under Hitler just needed the perfect opportunity. The opportunity came at November 8th, when Gustav von Kahr, alongside General Otto von Lossow and the chief of the Bavarian police, Hans von Zeisser, held a big public meeting in the Bürgerbrau Beer Hall in central Munich. The 3 men made up the so-called triumvirate that effectively controlled Bavaria at the time. Seizing them would be instrumental in taking power in Bavaria. On the night of the 8th of November, around 600 SA men marched towards the beer hall where the triumvirate was addressing the public. Hitler entered the big hall and climbed a table, fired his pistol in the ceiling, and proclaimed that the national revolution had begun. The 600 SA quickly surrounded the beer hall, and the 3 men on the stage was taken away to a room in the back. At this time, General Erich Ludendorff, a celebrated war hero from the Great War, was picked up by Hitler's aides. Ludendorff's arrival in the beer hall shifted the overall atmosphere, and the crowd started cheering vigorously. The crowd was now in favour of the putsch. The Nazis, led by Hitler, led the captured triumvirate out on the stage again and addressed the crowd. Things were going well for the Nazis at this point, having effectively taken power in Bavaria. At the same time, the Reichskriegsflagge, led by Ernst Röhm, had successfully captured the Bavarian War Ministry and erected barricades on the streets. In this rare picture of the event, a young Heinrich Himmler, future head of the Nazi SS, can be seen carrying the imperial battle flag. In the night, Hitler left the beer hall with a few aides and left General Ludendorff in charge of the situation. This was the first blunder made by the Nazis, as the 3 men previously captured pledged with Ludendorff to be allowed to go see their wives. Amazingly, Ludendorff agreed, and he let the 3 men go, with the promise that they would continue to support the putsch and not call in the army. In the early hours of November 9th, the putschists took to the streets and marched towards the Feldherrnhalle monument in central Munich. But by this time, armed police had been mobilized by the triumvirate that Ludendorff had released the previous night. And at the Odeonsplatz, the route was blocked by a few hundred heavily armed policemen. The Nazis started walking arm in arm towards the police and were subsequently greeted by a hail of bullets. 14 Nazis and 4 policemen were killed instantly, and many more were wounded. It was during the few seconds that followed that the mythological Blutfahne, or blood flag, was consecrated. When the police opened fire on the Nazis, the flag-bearer of the SA, Heinrich Trambauer, was hit by a bullet. He fell with the flag, and marching alongside him was the SA man Andreas Bauriedl. He was shot in the abdomen and fell to the ground, soaking the flag with his blood. Myth and facts often flow together, but the flag was miraculously recovered by the Nazis, and the flag became their most sacred symbol. Always present at bigger rallies and had to physically touch any new SA flag ceremonially. This tradition was upheld by the Nazis until the end of the war, when the flag was last seen. By this time, the putsch had failed quite badly, and most of the Nazis were retreating under heavy police fire. Hitler fled the city and took refuge in the home of one of his associates, where he faced a mental breakdown. The only unit holding their positions was Bund Reichskriegsflagge in the War Ministry. By this time, 2 of their members had been killed by friendly fire, and Röhm only gave up when the news reached him that the putsch had completely failed. The terms of his surrender were extraordinarily lenient. Röhm was arrested, but all the putschists from the Bund Reichskriegsflagge were granted amnesty and walked away as free men. Hitler was arrested, and the Nazi Party, alongside the participating paramilitaries, was banned the same day in Gustav von Kahr's appeal to the public. The trials that followed dragged on for a few months. The court and the judges were personally in favour of the putschists, as many of them, especially Hitler, claimed their noble intent to purge Germany of foreign profiteers and pacifists, and above all, Jews. Hitler was sentenced to a 5-year prison term in Landsberg prison outside Munich. Unlike any common criminal, Hitler's cell was very luxurious for the time. He was allowed unlimited guests at any given moment, and he could walk the prison yard at his liking. The 5-year sentence was also reduced to 9 months. In Landsberg, Hitler initially went on a week-long hunger strike and had to be convinced to start eating again. Not long after, Hitler decided to start writing his political testament. The book would be known as Mein Kampf, My Struggle. On December 20th, 1924, Hitler was released from prison. But the world he entered outside the prison walls was very different from the world he knew when he was imprisoned. The Nazi Party was in tatters and formally still outlawed. The economy had improved and Germany was no longer in need of a Hitler. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this dive into the Beer Hall Putsch, make sure to like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating stories from the past.